Okay, well, it's been a couple of minutes and I think we are going to get started. Cool. So welcome everyone to January Smart Money Town Hall. We're here to learn a little bit more about the economy in the hopes that it will give us a little more certainty and help us feel better about where things are going. I am the eternal optimist, so if that annoys you, then, well, you're going to get it anyway. So welcome everyone. I'm going to share my screen briefly so we can share my screen briefly so we can kind of just get all on the same page about what we're doing today. We're going to start out with personal introductions. Most of us are small business owners, and as we get to know each other a little bit more, tell us your name, what you do, what you're looking to get out of here, or what you're interested in talking about today. As we get to know each other better, it just makes a really good discussion later. And then we'll do our actual economic update, which is about 15 minutes, and it is color coded, and I assign grades to things. So instead of just throwing numbers at you, it actually makes a little bit of sense as to what the numbers mean for you. And then after that, we are going to have a discussion about what we think and how the economy is affecting each of us in our industries. At the end of our session, we'll finish up with one of our Smart Money Minutes, which is the financial education piece. And today we're going to talk about taxes. Who's excited about that? Yeah, no one.
Oh, yeah.
But you actually do get to choose how much you pay in taxes. And I will show you what that means. So let's start with our introductions. I'm going to stop sharing. So again, please tell us who you are, what you do, what industry you're in. We're going to start right at the top today. So Camille, please take us away.
You bet. Camille Parker, and I am a self-publishing consultant. I'm in the publishing services field. And what I do is I guide people to put their books out into the world. I am a book midwife. So that's my field. Welcome, everybody.
Yeah, thank you, Camille. We'll start off with Kathy.
Yeah, I'm Kathy Basel, and I was thinking about it. I've been self-employed for 20 years, and I'm a holistic, I'm a life coach for women, so women's empowerment coach. I take a holistic approach and do energy work and that kind of thing. So looking to see Melissa in action and definitely learn a little bit more about the economy, because I'm kind of got my stash, put it in there, and don't really think too much about it.
Nice. Feel free, we only have about half a dozen people here, and so feel free to make your introductions a little bit longer and kind of give us a sense, Camille, if there's anything, Kathy, Camille, if there's anything you want to add. We're not on a timeline here. We have plenty of time for everyone to talk, so.
Well, basically, I just wanted to let people know that, and this will kind of go further into the future, we're talking later, but self-publishing is booming, really, really booming as an industry right now. And I was told back last fall that, ironically, that December, January, and February are our busiest months. And that seems counterintuitive to me. But it's also the time when people are, kind of caving and, next stuff. And they're realizing, oh, I've had this book and I've had this book and I don't know what I'm going to do with it now. And so then they contact people like me and I guide your book through the self-publishing process. So.
We do have another guest joining us, and Kathy, back to you for just a moment. Welcome, thank you for being here. And I know that with your industry, you're talking to people in a lot of other places, and so you kind of get a good cross section of people, don't you? Talking about all the different types.
Yeah, I've been doing my work virtually for a while anyway, so in that regard, not a lot changed, but definitely, there's a lot of question and concern. And to me, probably like you, Melissa, I'm the eternal optimist. So I like to help people to understand that this is actually an evolution that we're going in. And there's all kinds of possibility. When things look like they're hard on the outside, it's actually an opportunity for us to vision what it is that we want to create. So it's probably kind of the same type of process that you walk your clients through. Where do you want to go? What do you want your ideal life to look like? And actually the starting steps are everything you need is within you right now to get started with that. So Yeah, it's a good time for people to actually be taking, account of what's happened this past year. It's been a tough one, lots of changes, lots of shifts and uncertainty about, the things that we still rely upon for security. Now it's like, just as you're saying, we get to create that for ourselves within ourselves. So
Awesome. Thank you, Kathy. Robin, if you would like to introduce yourself next, and then after Robin, we'll hear from Monica.
I'm Robin McIntosh, and it's interesting that we're talking about our careers because my career just unceremoniously ended. They did a reorganization at RTD and they eliminated my position. Normally, that would be a very sad thing to happen to somebody, but it was amazing because I'm in charge of all the facilities at RTD. And when I got that call, it was a cold call at 8 o'clock in the morning on a Tuesday. It was that, I went through a whole series of emotions, obviously, but man, at the end of that day, and actually at the end of that week, this weight that was lifted off my shoulders was incredible. I am, and have been, a Toastmasters junkie. I am a firm believer in the program, and so I continue to do that. I'm also a recent Noom junkie. I have lost over 50 pounds on the Noom diet, and it's not a diet; it's a program. A little too heady at times, too much into the psychology of it, but you can kind of pick and choose what you want. So I'm at a great place emotionally, financially, physically in my life. If a dream job comes along, I'm not opposed to going back in the working world. I'm still 5 years away from that, secret number when I actually get Social Security, or at least Medicaid and Medicare. So I've kind of got to bridge that gap somehow. So I'm hoping that and I love to learn. Melissa's in one of my Toastmasters groups, so I'm here to support her and to learn and to grow.
Thank you, Robin. Robin has been a wonderful mentor to me, and so I'm very glad you're here. Monica, if we could hear from you, and after Monica, Nicole.
Hey guys, nice to see some of the faces I know. Hi Camille, hi Kathy. But I've seen probably Robin and Joshua last time too when I was here. Anyways, I'm a content marketer, my own company, Chameleon Digital Marketing. And with being online and everybody having to work from home and on their computer, learning new tech skills, new tech programs and ways to connect, I'm not complaining. I've been very busy, especially with web redesigns. Some of the people I know, they've had a website, they didn't really care about it, and now they do. So we do a lot of spicing up online, what people put out online and stuff like that. And I do have companies that I regularly work with on their Facebook and LinkedIn and Instagram presence. So luckily, most of my clients are able to keep doing what they've been doing before. We just got to be really careful with our messaging, so we don't assume things at all. We just, always come from like a emotional intelligence perspective, like, how are you feeling? How are you doing? How's your word? Hopefully it's not crumbling, right? But always come from like a more understanding point of view versus like a sell, buy something from me perspective. That's what's going on.
Yeah, Monica and I spoke recently, and I think one thing that always strikes me about her is how good she is at listening and helping you figure out what you need and then delivering on that. So she's actually the one who enables me to publish these town halls online. She showed me how to do that for myself. So you're an enabler, Monica.
Yay!
Possibly.
Nicole, if you'd like to introduce yourself, please. And after that, Joshua.
So good afternoon. My name is Nicole Perry, and Melissa and I met a couple of months ago, I think, before the new year. And so thank you for inviting me. I'm here because this is the year that I really want to pay attention to money. I know money wants us to pay attention to it, and I want to pay more attention to it. I am by trade a radio talk show host in my area in the Boston area. I've been hosting my FM show for almost 8 years. It's an award-winning show, so I'm pretty proud of it. I'm doing a whole series on Black Lives Matter right now, which is just really important to break silence and speak out and have uncomfortable conversations so that we can get more comfortable. And I'm also a newly published author, self-published author, Camille. So yes, I'm right there with you. And I think every person on the planet really could, not should, I don't want to should on anybody, could write their own book, whether you're a CPA or a dance instructor or whatever you do for a living. Writing your story is, we're all leaving a legacy behind, and it's important to put it in the written word. I really do believe that. So I'm writing my second book now, and yeah, really excited. And I'm 36% in. I know, it's an odd number. Let's see. And I also, I facilitate mastermind meetings for women entrepreneurs. And so that's a little bit about me.
Thank you so much for being here, Nicole. Nicole is incredibly multi-talented. She has her, first of all, she manages a very successful radio talk show that involves women entrepreneurs. And then these Black Lives Matter conversations are in line with that, but still different. And then her book is a kind of a self-discovery journey about dieting. So say a couple words about that, Nicole.
I was muted. You can go to ilovemydiet.com for more information. But it's called I Am on a Love Diet. And it says a grapefruit diet is not realistic. A love diet is personal. And I basically show everybody how I created my own diet. Now, I didn't lose over 50 pounds like Robin, but I did lose about 25 pounds. I have kept it off. I've been on the same one and only diet. I'm in my 4th year. I've done no one else's diet except the one I created for myself. It is sustainable for the rest of my life, in a restaurant, at home, with family, everywhere, anywhere. And so it's my story. It's 1 year of my life captured.
Yeah, it is the no guilt diet. So love it.
Yeah, I don't have any guilt, but it took a while to change my mindset.
So yeah, again, the multi-talented Nicole, thank you for joining us. And Joshua, if you would like to introduce yourself.
Sure. I'm Joshua Timberman. I am married to Melissa, and she is delightful and wonderful. And I'm a technology person. I work for a software company, and my last day is Friday, and I'm going to go work for a different software company doing a slightly different role. So in February's town hall, y'all should come back because I'll have more to say about that.
Thank you. And no, I do not pay him for the plug. As you all know, I am Melissa Timberman, and I work with 5 Rings Financial, and I help people enjoy their relationship with money. Nicole, as you said, this is the year you want to pay attention to money, and we all have kind of times and places where, we care, our priorities change, we move around, and there is a really healthy relationship you can have with money. Money is a wonderful tool, and we want to use it, and we want to have it do for us what we want, and we don't want to be obsessed about it or worry about it. And we want to, we all have our own financial path to create, and I help people do that. I find it very fun, and I love being a resource and answering questions, giving a different perspective to people. Money, the way money works is not a state secret. There's nothing magic about it. It is simply one more tool, and I love helping people understand that, navigate it. When I explain something to someone, I love hearing them say, I always try to check in. Did that make sense? Do you have any questions about that? And they said, no, that's really easy. I never thought about that before, but yeah, I understand. I love that light bulb moment. That's a step on the journey to feeling like you have options and feeling like you have choices, and feeling that freedom. So that is what I do. And in that vein of financial education, let's move on to our economic update. Thank you all for sharing about yourselves, and I look forward to a fabulous discussion in a few minutes once we have some meat here to kind of talk about. So when we talk about the economy, a lot of people just think of one or two things. It's often the stock market, right? That's kind of our gauge, but there are a lot of different facets to the economy, and I have tried to make this as simple as and reliable and easy to understand as possible. So we're going to talk about 5 basic measures in the economy. First, we're going to talk about employment or unemployment. Then we're going to talk about housing. There are a lot of different measures we can talk about with real estate. So because there's such a wealth of things to look at, I really honestly just look at one thing as kind of a facsimile for how things are going. Inflation is a really important part of the economy. How much does it cost? How fast are our costs increasing to buy things in our life? The next thing we look at is spending, and that's how much we're producing as a nation with the gross domestic product, the GDP, as well as how much we are putting out there in terms of consumer spending. The last part of the economy is confidence. You know, if you even if you don't feel like you know what you're doing, if you pretend like you are, it comes across very well. A lot of the economy is psychological, and as a nation, we build this psychology together to affect our economy. Let's get started. Again, I do color code things and I do grade things. So the green is good, that's like an A. The blue, you'll see figures and numbers in blue font, and that is kind of a B. You know, it's not bad, it's not great, but it is not bad. And so when we look at our economy now for the last few months, that blue may be a little more important in realizing that no, it's not bad. So we have our greens for our A's, our blues for our B's, and C's for our reds. So when we look at unemployment rate, unemployment really spiked at the beginning of the pandemic and the shutdowns last April. It spiked to almost 15%. We've improved a lot since then. There is an actual ideal unemployment rate. Unemployment rate should be between 3 and 5%. We don't want unemployment at 0, because if everyone is employed, then that means businesses cannot expand. But if too few people are employed, then of course that affects American households very negatively. So we actually want to keep unemployment at a certain rate above 0. So as we can see, over the last year, unemployment has improved quite a bit, and we are still fairly high above that ideal rate. So we've got a little bit of ways to go. And this graph that we're seeing, where it was 15% back in April, and then it's kind of improved over time, those kinds of changes in unemployment rate are really normal, and that's what the graph on the right is for. The unemployment rate, we've seen huge spikes in unemployment for our entire history as a nation since we've been starting to keep track of these things. And so these numbers are not ideal. We don't want American households to suffer, which is what we see when unemployment is high, but they are normal, and they do happen in cycles. Next, we're going to talk about unemployment and jobs added or lost. How many jobs do we see moving over time? Now, April, we saw a lot of jobs lost. May, we saw some jobs lost, and we have kind of seen improvement over time as jobs are re-added, the economy reopens. And so last month was the first time we've seen a big loss of jobs in about the last 6 or 8 months. So that one gets a red. That is no bueno, but it is also not something we cannot overcome. We are not ever going to be on a straight path towards the green A range. We do see ups and downs over time. And so that's where jobs added or lost is right now. And a third measure we look at in employment is hourly earnings. How much are people actually bringing home? That's a really important thing, because sometimes if you're not unemployed, you are underemployed, or you have 6 different jobs because you work in the gig economy, something like that. And we do want to see that hourly earnings keep up with inflation. If inflation raises our costs at about 3% a year, then we want to see hourly earnings increase at about 3% per year. So hourly earnings went up about 0.3% over the last month. which if you annualize that, that's over 3% per year. So that's a really good number that we want to see with hourly earnings. And over the last year, hourly earnings have increased a little more than inflation. So that's really good. That's very encouraging right now. For some of you who haven't been coming to these every month, there's a really interesting spike at the beginning of 2020 in hourly earnings here. And I always like talking about this. I find it really fascinating. When the pandemic first hit and people lost their jobs, hourly earnings went up by a lot. 7.5% hourly earnings went up. Why would that happen? A lot of people lost their jobs. Well, this points to why this economic crisis is the most unequal economic crisis we ever saw. Hourly earnings went up because all of the people who lost their jobs were lower wage workers in the restaurant and service businesses. So I think that's fascinating. Of course, I'm a giant nerd, which is why I host these every month. But hourly earnings have been keeping up with inflation over the last year, and that's what we want to focus on and be happy about. Let's move on to our next big measure where we look at housing. And again, there's 16,000 things we can talk about with housing and real estate. But a really good measure of confidence in the economy and how the economy overall is doing is housing starts. How many residential units started construction? They didn't get permitted, they didn't get finished, they didn't get sold. How many housing units got started? And we have seen a really good increase in that over the last month. And so this is a great number. We like this. This one is in the green. Moving on to inflation. This is always my favorite slide because inflation has just been solidly in the green for like the whole year. And again, the eternal optimist, look at all that green. I'm so excited. So the measure we want to see at inflation is an amount between 0 and 2% is ideal for inflation. We don't want anything much higher than that. And one thing we see is the federal funds rate at 0.25%. We want to see that rate between 0 and 2% to manage the best economy and the best inflation rate possible. Now, this is relevant because our mortgage rates are often, the federal funds rate is a factor in our mortgage rate. So who here owns a house and has refinanced in the last year? Or bought a house, refinanced, something like that. This funds rate, this Fed rate is actually really important to that. So we want to see that between 0 and 2. Unfortunately, the reason it's in blue and not green is because if that Fed rate stays the same for too long, then it indicates that the economy is not doing so well. And the Fed has to manage things with kind of money tricks instead of seeing improvements in GDP and spending, job unemployment rates, et cetera, et cetera. So that's at blue because we don't want to see that Fed rate stay that low for too long. But right now it's really okay. I probably gave that slide more attention than it deserves, but like I said, it is my favorite.
What is the producer price index? What does that mean?
Oh yes, the consumer price index. Thank you, Kathy. The consumer price index, this is how much it costs us to go to the store and get a cart of groceries, right? That has gone up maybe 0.4% over the last month, and so that's fine. The producer price index is how much it costs a manufacturer to produce those same goods. Now, why would we look at that? That's because the producer price index, it kind of forecasts, because when they're producing things right now, it will be on our shelves in a couple of months. So if this producer price index is at a good rate, then we can kind of forecast a teeny bit and we can see, okay, manufacturers think that these goods will be sold in a few months, and we know that their costs are at this rate right now. So a few months down the road, we can kind of forecast how many goods will be on the shelves, how confident producers are about the economy, and how much it costs them to produce those. Does that answer your question, Kathy?
Yeah.
Please, I was actually going to interrupt myself. Please put things in the chat if you have a question, or honestly, just speak up. I would love to answer questions in the moment when they occur. And I've also been doing this for a few months, so to me, it's extremely familiar. And who else finds all of this stuff very familiar? Yeah, I'm probably going to be the only. Camille, yes, I'm usually the only hand raised there, so please ask questions. I know this is not familiar to everybody, and I would never expect that. Oh, GDP. This one has recovered. Oh, thank goodness. The first quarter, we went down a bit because March is really when a lot of things started affecting the economy, shutdowns and uncertainty and that kind of thing. Quarter two, we all just kind of hunkered down. We got in our little bunkers. We didn't do much. We didn't produce much. We didn't spend much. So in the third quarter, it was finally, okay, we understand what's going on. We know how to deal with it. We've weathered a bit of the storm. And so we have really recovered quite well. For the year, we have not grown. Our economy has, our GDP has shrunk a little bit for the year. But for right now, we get a green for how much we're producing. And this is the only measure that's measured by quarter and not by month. So this one doesn't really change very often. Next, let's look at actual spending. So on the left, we look at retail sales, and retail sales is pretty much everything we buy on a day-to-day basis. Groceries, clothing, anything you would generally go to a store for. Although of course now we have curbside pickup and Amazon and all those kinds of things, but still the retail goods have gone down over the last couple of months. And that's unusual because in November, December, that's when people buy things for Christmas, right? Sometimes they'll spend more on purchases, spend more per purchase, or they'll have more purchases. So retail sales are down, and that is not really expected, even in the economic crisis that we're going through. So that was a little unexpected. And we are going to give it a red because retail sales should go up generally over time. Durable goods is also a really fun one to look at because durable goods are the long-term things that we buy. You're not going to buy a car every month. You're not going to buy a new stove every month. So durable goods are the things that we want to last for a long time. And again, Kathy, much like the producer price index, looking at durable goods kind of helps us forecast. If you're not sure you're going to have a job next month, you're not going to buy a car. So it's when people feel certain about the economy, that's when they spend money on durable goods. So over the last year, as we look at durable goods, we see that March and April, we saw a really big decrease. And then the next few months, we saw an increase, but that was really just catching up as people felt more certain and they made those purchases that they had put off for March and April. So a durable goods rate of an increase of 0.9% over the month, we're going to give that a good solid B. Again, it's not a booming economy, but we are just fine right where we are. So our next measure, the leading economic index, is a comprehensive measure of consumer confidence. The consumer confidence score is just based on surveys of American households. And so that has increased very slightly. It's still pretty far below where we want it to be, but we are seeing improvement. So we're going to give that a good solid B. The leading economic index involves several different factors and a very complicated algorithm. And that one, again, more comprehensive, allows us to forecast a little bit. So we want to see an improvement there. And everyone else's favorite slide, mine might be inflation, but everyone else loves looking at stock market numbers. So as we see for the last month, the stock market has gotten a little less volatile, and volatility is not good for us. It's not good for our 401k balances. It's not good for consumer confidence. So over the last month, I would say the stock market has become less volatile, and it did hit a high last week. So we are thrilled about that. What does it all mean? There's a lot of colors, a lot of numbers, a lot of grades given here. And so I'm pulling it all together in this slide so you can see overall, we've got some things that are in the green. We are really happy about that. And there are a few things that are in the blue. And so we're going to pull it all together and give this month a good solid B. So there's a lot of room for improvement. You know, I'm actually kind of thinking maybe a B+ for this month. I think we've seen a lot of improvement, but I just gave it a B instead of a B+ because we have seen improvement, but we're really still not where we want to be and not where we want to be headed. So we've got some room to grow. And next, what we're going to discuss is what are you guys looking forward to? What's on the horizon? What are you seeing in your own industries? Nicole and Kathy, you talk to tons of people in a lot of different industries. Monica, you as well for your clients. Oh, Camille for your clients. So I would like to stop sharing here and hear from everyone else. What did you find most interesting about the economic update? What are you seeing in your own life? Please speak up. Nicole?
So you took the questions away. I was still reading them. Can you post them? Can you post them in the chat?
I can't do that on the fly, sorry.
Oh, can you
But we'll share briefly. So
there you go.
what was surprising to you? What's a takeaway? What's a takeaway from anyone here? Again, I do not talk politics, but when we think about the economy and confidence in our economy and our government, politics may occur to some people. And so we're not going to get political here, but when we think about where we were a month ago versus where we were today, there was uncertainty. There's a lot. Thank you, Joshua, for putting the questions in the chat so we can stop sharing and kind of see each other's faces a little bit better.
All I was going to say about politics is that regardless of this change, the switch over of political parties in the White House, it is very common for numbers to go up the following months. Just because you're going to have the volatility that happens between the election and the inauguration typically is very typical, no matter who's going to be in office. And so to me, this part is kind of standard, but I'm very excited to see. I'm not excited to see the unemployment numbers, but I also know, again, things will move as we move farther into the warmer months. We're going to have a lot more people out and working, and obviously as the vaccine, gets in people's arms, hopefully we'll start seeing a lot more jobs out there. So
that's a really good point, Camille, and that's exactly why I host this. It is not to make everyone an economic expert. No one is interested in actually doing that. My intention here is to give people certainty. It's uncertainty that kills confidence. Even if the worst possible thing happens, if the worst possible thing happens, then you think, okay, I know how to deal with this. Now we're going to carry on. It's not bad things happening that upset people. It's uncertainty. And so I'm here to provide certainty. And you are exactly right. There are just cycles in politics. Gas prices always go down in an election year. Gas prices go down in an election year. Numbers go up after an inauguration, no matter what.
Right.
My
Awesome.
boyfriend's looking to buy a new house, and he's feeling like he's got to hurry because he's afraid that things may change. The Fed might change the rate. What do you think?
The best time to buy always is now. Now is always the best time to buy.
Okay.
If he tries to time the market, he's going to be upset. There is always a time for things to be better. But if you think about it, mortgage rates are, the lowest mortgage rates I've seen are about 2.65, 2.75. Now the difference between a 2.75 mortgage rate and a 3.5 mortgage rate, that's actually a very small difference. It seems like a huge number, a huge difference in the number, but it's not going to make very much difference to him over time if he buys now.
I just thought it interesting that someone would feel like there's that amount of urgency. To think of the Titanic as, like the big slow turn on the economy, not like it's going to drop substantially or go up substantially one way or the other right away in the next few months.
Well, but I think it's been so low for so long. It's not normally the case. So he's probably right to, if he's on the fence, to hop on the opportunity if one presents itself.
If he can, I would suggest that he really look into it and be very serious about it, because it's never a bad time. Also remember, economists have predicted 9 of the last 5 recessions. There's always this fear that when things are going well, we're going to hop off, we're at the edge of a cliff and things are going to be terrible. There is sadly, there is uncertainty moving forward because no one can see the future. You know, how is vaccine rollout going to affect things? How is better weather going to affect things? How are different administrations' policies going to affect things? Being the eternal optimist, I really don't think we are on the edge of a cliff here. So I don't think there's a lot of urgency for him. But if he can buy now, I don't know why he wouldn't.
Well, it's one thing to look now and begin preparing, but you know, when you find the right house, my concern for him is hurrying and buying something that's not really a long-term fit.
That's a really good point, because we do know from how the realty industry is in Denver, we do know that there's just not a lot of options out there. So if he looks and he says, oh, there's only 5 houses that fit my parameters, I need to buy one of them, then yeah, he might be disappointed down the road. Anyone else?
I was thinking along the lines, Melissa, you were like with the vaccines, like the uncertainties, whether enough people are willing to, you know, have the vaccines, right? Because I feel like none of us want to keep, you know, wearing the mask for another 5 years. So I feel like if I'm vaccinating myself, I should not have to wear the mask, right? Whereas the people that are not willing to do that, maybe they should be punished to having to wear the mask, right? But the way I think is, I think is very different than what I've been reading in the news articles. I'm like, I don't even understand this. I'm like, if we're vaccinating ourselves, how long after are we still wearing the masks?
That's true, but keep in mind a couple of salient facts about mask wearing. Mask wearing has been popular in China for years because it's about health. Their air quality is so poor that the rise in asthma and serious lung conditions, not smoking related, is really high. And so people wear masks just because they know it's for their own health. So you might see a shift in that. I think if the pandemic has taught us anything, it's taught us how dirty public places are. And you know that if you go into the public, any given person could be a dirty little disease monger and give you a cold. In fact, colds and flus are almost at 0 this year because we're wearing masks. So people might shift their reality around that over time. I don't think so, Monica, but they might. Another salient fact is, again, I am your trusty source for weird math. Think about vaccination. If we're vaccinating 1 million people a day and everyone needs 2 shots, let's say there's 200 million Americans who want to get the shot. It's going to take us 400 days to vaccinate everyone if nothing changes.
Take a while. Yeah, I know it.
So again, uncertainty. But if the human being is nothing else, it is adaptable, and we have adapted already. Hopeful message.
I don't know. I went for a walk in my favorite park like a week or so ago. 3 people were in the park, right? Only 3 people, and none of them were walking together. And guess what? All 3 of them were wearing a mask. And I paused for a second and I looked, I'm like, okay, it's either me that's crazy or something wrong with these 3 people. Aren't they out here to get some fresh air? I'm like, and there's nobody around you practically. Like, what are you afraid of? So I'm like, okay.
It's breathing each other's air that gives us the vaccine. And some people are going to be more comfortable that way. At the beginning of the pandemic, a friend of mine, his wife was diagnosed with cancer, with leukemia at the age of 29. And he got furious when people weren't wearing masks, because it's not just about COVID. If she gets a cold, she has no immune system, she could die. So when you see people wearing masks, you don't know what's going on in their life. Maybe they had a family member die of COVID. Maybe they've got a severely immunocompromised person at home. And so hopefully, hopefully we'll see mask use as...
I just gotta be more... I'm completely fine going to the grocery store in it. I just feel weird when people are wearing that.
I'm in Massachusetts, and they mandated outdoor masks. So, and I was driving in the car and saw somebody driving with a mask on, and I thought, am I not following a new
alone, right?
we're supposed to have it like in the car too, but I think it's just people are so used to having it on outside, they're leaving it on when they get in their car. But yeah, I think you never know why somebody's wearing it, and it could be issues beyond, you know, what we see. But I'm with you, Monica. I want the fresh air.
That's why I go outside to get some fresh air in my lungs.
So
I'm like,
I'm looking at these questions, Melissa, and you know, I guess I'm with you as the optimism person. I'm feeling really confident about 2021 that, I mean, I feel really confident, and I'm saying that Saturday my husband got laid off. And I you know, today's Tuesday, and he's a contract, he's a consultant, so he'll pull something together, but I still feel confident. I feel like if he got laid off in March last year, I would have had several weeks of, oh my God, panic. But I don't feel like that today. I feel, you know, we have money tucked away. We're paying attention to it. I feel like 2021 is just going to be a really great transition year. Like, it's not going to happen overnight. Now, I don't think 5 years, I hope I'm not seeing people, son, who said that, Monica?
what,
like,
5 years?
Oh my
In
God, that'll just,
please.
but I do think that, I don't know who said this, but I think that if you, maybe it was you, Monica, if you get the vaccine, which I'm happy to get, but my numbers are so, I'm like the least person that needs the vaccine. But I will want to get it. And I almost feel like, and I mentioned this at a Zoom, and the other person, I don't think they were very happy, but I said, you know, maybe we'll have to wear like a little bracelet that shows that we've received the vaccine, like with a barcode on it or something. Or maybe it'll just be imprinted on our brain or our head or something. I don't know. But we'll have to showcase and prove the vaccine in order to enter an event. Think about that. It's so futuristic. We are so on the cusp of freaking Star Trek. Like, we're like all moving in that direction. I was at the nail salon several months ago, and they, you know how the plexiglass is all up. Mm-hmm. And I was seeing in the plexiglass the vision of somebody walking in, and I'm like, oh, holograms are right around the corner. Like, so I think that the really have, maybe this is me being naive, but I don't have a lot of fear coming up. I just see a lot of progression and a lot of positivity.
Mm-hmm. Nicole, to your point, one thing we have seen over this last year is the tech industry is booming. Again, very unequal economy right now. Different industries are being affected differently. The tech industry is booming. I was speaking to a friend who is from Hong Kong, and, you know, maybe we won't have bracelets, but when it comes to large events in Hong Kong, they were hit pretty badly by the SARS and the MERS over the last decade. And so they have, you know how we have the little metal detectors at the airport? They have detectors like that for temperature. So if you walk through one into a major public arena and you have a fever, it will tell people. So isn't that interesting? The use of technology to manage public health in a fairly equal way. We're not singling anyone out here. So
they do that at our gym because we go to Lifetime.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We have to, yeah. They measure a temperature every time. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Joshua, Robin, I know you guys have thoughts. You're not thinking about the nothing box.
Yes, I don't know if you want to hear my opinions, because, you know, when you guys are talking about, you know, the masks and everything like that, I really get concerned, because what happens if we stop mingling germs, we stop building our own immunity, right? And so I get concerned that we're going to take this too far, and that, you know, now we're afraid of everybody around them. Somebody coughs and everybody kind of starts moving away from them, right? And that used to happen on the bus when I used to ride the bus, right, when it was cold and flu season. But now people are taking it to a whole nother level. And I'm just very concerned about the mentality of our society going forward. If it doesn't kill you, it's going to make you stronger. And I've grown up that way my entire life. And that's the way I continue to live. I'm with Monica. If you're outside, take the damn mask. I'm sorry, unless you're obviously are in Boston where it's required. But even then, you know, I have seen people where, you know, they got their mouth, you know, their nose uncovered. And so, you know, and maybe there is mask police out there. I don't know. I'm just nervous about the governmental control just going too far. And that's my opinion.
I don't think there's mask police, but people are judging you when you wear your mask that way, for sure. And that is a really good point. As we saw in so many of our economic measures, I'm going to bring it back to that a little bit, but there are economic measures where we want a certain range. You know, we want unemployment to be between 3 and 5%. We want inflation to be between 0 and 2%. We want people to be healthy, and we don't want anyone to have the trial by fire and have someone die of COVID, but we also don't want a nanny state. So much about life is not either or, it's a balance.
It is, but you know, people die of every year, you know, and they die from the cold. And so, you know, at what point, obviously these mortality rates are a little bit higher, but they're not that far from the flu mortality rates. But they decided to intervene, and so I'm just, you know, and that's why you don't ask my opinion ever.
Diverse opinions are welcomed, and everyone is respected. So thank you, Robin. On that note, we are going to move on to our financial education portion. And this is something that some of you may already understand, but it's worth noting. And this is the only, the reason I thought of doing this part today about taxes is because there are concerns about tax rates. Most of you probably aren't nerdy enough to know this, but we have different tax brackets and different top tax rates. So in the 50s, right now, we have, when we file our taxes, we have 7 tax brackets, and the top tax rate is under 40%. That's a lot, right? That seems like an awful lot. But bear in mind that back in the 50s, there was one year where there were 56 tax brackets, and the top tax rate was 91%. So there is a real concern about what our taxes are going to look like. You know, we had the bailouts in 2008. We're still paying off the Iraq War. World War II was the last war we paid for in cash. Every war we've had since, including the war on terror, has been financed. So we've got the 2008 bailouts. We're still paying for the Iraq War. 2 CARES Acts thus far. Who knows how much more economic stimulus there will be, as well as tax cuts a couple of years ago for a lot of Americans. So taxes, not exciting, but once you can understand it and you know how to maximize it, it becomes a little more exciting. So let's talk about that now. My plant here is overtaking my whiteboard, and he moves. He was not here last night. I call him Audrey. Who's seen Little Shop of Horrors? Okay, I think it's funny. And again, with this, please unmute yourself, speak up if anything I'm saying doesn't make sense. So today's topic is you actually get to choose how much you pay in taxes. And that's an interesting way of looking at it, but I swear to you it's true. You don't get to choose your tax rate. That's not what I'm saying. But when we look at our money, this is our income. And we get to choose what we do with our income, right? And so the one thing we all have to do, and that we all do, is we put money into the bucket for our living expenses. These are things like our mortgages, our cars, our clothes, all of the things we buy, we purchase on a day-to-day basis. And when we look at taxes for those, we put a certain amount of money in that bucket, and we pay income taxes on all of that money, and then we spend it on whatever. And I would draw a little car or a t-shirt or something, but stick figures are almost beyond me, so we're not going to see any art out of me today. So this is our first bucket. We all put money in this bucket. And we all really get to choose how much money we put in this bucket, right? We get to make choices about where we live, who we live with, what kind of car we drive, how often we buy clothes. So we don't get to choose our tax rate, but we get to choose how much money we put into each of those buckets. Now, after living expenses, this is where we start thinking about long-term money and savings and how we're going to grow money for our future. The next bucket is what we call employer-sponsored retirement accounts. Those are ESRAs. Really good example that most people know is the 401k. 401k, 403b, 457b, IRAs, all of those acronyms and numbers generally indicate something that the IRS has control over. The IRS tells you the rules of those kinds of accounts. And what this money looks like is we put money into those pre-tax. And that's really exciting. Uncle Sam looks at us and he says, hey, you know what I'm going to do for you because I like you? I'm proud of you for saving for retirement. So you can put money into this retirement account and you don't have to pay taxes on it yet. Isn't that cool? I'm a really good uncle, huh? Unfortunately, what really happens is you put money into that account and it grows. And then eventually you want to take your money out. And when you take your money out, it is all taxed at income tax rates. Moreover, Uncle Sam at some point says, you know, you're 72 now and you need to start taking money out of those retirement accounts so that, you know, I can get my share. Thing about Uncle Sam is he always gets his cut. This is a really good vehicle and I'm not bashing it. The best thing about this vehicle that we love is we usually get an employer's match. And what's the employer match? That's free money. Who likes free money? Everyone likes free money, right? So the 401k is an excellent tool. If you're filing your taxes and you are just over the line into another tax bracket, putting money into your 401k, pre-tax money, can drop your taxable income down and you can pay a very different amount in taxes. So the strategic use of 401ks is a good thing. It's good that we have these tools. The next vehicle we can choose to put our money into is capital assets. So these are things like the stock market and real estate. And these are also really useful tools. So what we do here is we take money and we decide I've got, you know, I don't want to put more money into my 401k. I want to put it into something like the stock market. So we take after-tax money. So we've already paid income taxes on it. And we put it into the stock market or a piece of real estate or whatever. And that money grows. And then when we pull money out of there, we have to pay capital gains taxes. So it's not quite income tax. It's designed to be less than income tax. But again, I know everyone hates to hear it, but income taxes are relatively low right now. So what you pay in capital gains taxes might, for some people, be as much or more than their income taxes. These are really good options. You can grow a lot in those types of vehicles. Another thing about real estate is if you buy a piece of real estate, you can get rental income too. So again, these are also excellent tools. And the last way we choose is what we call tax-free money. Now, we are paying some in taxes, but let me explain. When we choose these vehicles, these are things like Roth IRAs, Roth 401ks, which are excellent vehicles. And the vehicle I deal in is tax-free index accounts. So the way taxes work on those is you put money into those vehicles, and it is after-tax money. You are paying Uncle Sam income tax on that. But that money grows over time. And when you pull it out, you never pay any additional tax on that. So we can't choose our tax rates, but we can choose how much we pay in taxes over our lifetime by deciding which of these vehicles we want to use, how much money we're going to put into those vehicles. And at that point, you can manage your overall tax burden. So that one's a really fun one. I love talking about this stuff because I'm a giant nerd. Any questions as we finish up? Nothing? I was perfect? I explained everything? Oh, awesome.
I have a quick question. But now I'm talking and I can't see your board. So what is the second little one that says ES something?
The Ezra, these are your employer-sponsored retirement accounts. These are the ones where you sign up for your retirement account, like your 401k, through your employer. There's several different options to choose from, and they all have funny acronyms or lots of numbers because they are managed, the rules around them are managed by the IRS.
Okay, and then the TFIA is the tax-free index accounts, and that's the one that you said you can help people with.
Mm-hmm. I like those. This is my favorite bucket. This is the bucket that my husband and I have most of our money in. I would love to move into this bucket, but this is money that, when you have lots of extra money, this is a great bucket. But I have my money in this bucket. Roth IRAs are very popular, but they have low contribution limits. You can only put about $6,000 into a Roth IRA, and that is never going to be enough to retire on, right? Roth 401ks are a really good option, and I really like them. They've got much higher limits, and you get an employer match with them. So Roth 401ks are wonderful tools. Tax-free index accounts that I deal in, they really only have one edge over the Roth 401k, and that is that you don't lose your money with what we do. So again, the stock market, your Roth 401k is invested in the stock market. So your money there is going to go up and down and up and down. And so really the only advantage that the accounts I offer over the Roth 401k is the fact that you don't lose your money and you can still grow. But those are all of those tools fall into the same tax treatment bucket. And that's what we refer to as tax-free money. You, again, are paying income taxes on it initially, but you never pay other taxes on it, unlike these other two buckets. Did that answer your question? Good. Any other questions I can answer? No, I can't see the future. No, I do not know the atomic weight of popcorn.
Who's going to win the Super Bowl?
I don't even know who's in the Super Bowl. The Packers are in the Super Bowl, right? It must be
The Chiefs. The Chiefs.
Okay, it must be the Chiefs then.
It will be the Chiefs. I like both teams. It doesn't matter to me, honestly, but I do.
But the storyline behind Tom Brady, I am really pulling for Tampa Bay to win just because of the historic. I mean, he's 43 years old.
Right.
I mean, he's darn near my age, right?
Yeah.
Wish I was 43.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. In quarterback terms, he is as ancient as they come.
He really is.
He's good. He's good.
Yeah. So I'm pulling for Tampa.
He moved to another team and got another Super Bowl appearance. Is just amazing to me. But
Kansas City won last year. You know what?
Yeah, there's no problem. Patrick has lots and lots of chances. And they won last year. I don't like back-to-backers, so there you go. Yeah.
I actually want to know if Tom Brady gets called grandpa in the locker room.
Oh,
That's what I want.
I don't know that they would
doubt
dare
it.
to call him grandpa in the locker room.
He commands a lot of respect. I really
Yeah.
doubt
Doubt
it.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a legend.
He's a good guy.
All right, Melissa. Well, I'll see you in about an hour.
Unfortunately, I can't make it to Toastmasters today. Sorry, Rob, I have a
You're not
conflict.
gonna make it today.
I'll see you next
We
week.
gotta.
Oh no, have I?
Robin froze. All right. See you guys. It was
Still.
very
Have a good one.
educational. Thanks,
Talk to you soon.
Melissa.
Thank you
Bye,
so
everybody.
much for joining us, and thank you all for laughing at me. I mean, with me.
With you, with.
With. Have a good one. Thank you all for being here, and I will see you all next month.